Hey guys, I know the audio is going to be pretty crappy here. I don't have my microphone on, but this is a bit of a project bike I've been working on, this Specialized Hardrock. And I got to pick this fork off of eBay. What's unique about it is that it's 1/1/8 inch steer, but it's a rigid fork. So the plan is to paint it, spray paint it, and then we'll put it back onto this. Not put it back, but so we'll let future column take over before I stop yapping too much. So let's take a proper look at the bike. This isn't original. Everything on it has been parts bin. The fork and handlebar and stem came off another bike, which I'm just using as a project bike, and the brakes, the wheel set came from the touring bike, and then the gears were just a mix match of what I had. The crankset came from Baby London, so shout out to him, and then the chainring was air bike, but everything in it is very crusty. Those forks are clapped and don't work at all, and are squidgy and rusty and full of water, so they're getting replaced. Seat post is too short for me, and then that seat is absolutely horrendous. It's comfortable, but I don't think it's worth keeping. And yeah, those wheels set excellent condition from another bike. Those tires absolutely felt awful on the road. Whatever it is about the tread, they would just squirm and squeal, and very uneasy riding them. So let's get the bike in the shed and we can figure out what to do with it. This is a fancy new work stand I got. It's a Park Tool PRS 222, which is more like the European race style bikes. But I don't like it for bulky mountain bikes. It's just too awkward to get the bike into the stand. So this is a before of the fork before I start painting it. So the first step is getting some light sandpaper and then just keying it, which is basically just to take the gloss off and just to give something for the top paint to stick to. So after that we can clean it with some alcohol, take off all the grease. Pretty simple, pretty easy to do. And then we're left with a nice surface for the paint to attach to. So we just want to mask the leg off, and then this is the spray paint, quite cheap stuff from Lidl. So I'm not great at spray painting, but I should be better than most people because I do have some experience with it. But what I do know is very light coats and always keep the can moving, don't stop at any one point. So here you can just see that the writing's still coming under, so I just give it a few more coats, nothing special, pretty much the same thing, and then eventually it comes out looking like this, pretty nice. So here I'm just removing the old Suntour fork to get ready for the new fork, so we can figure out how much to cut off the top. So the headset is actually a cheap Chinese one I bought for like £8 a couple of years ago. Had it on 2 bikes now, and I love these split ring crown race rings because it just makes swapping the forks so much easier. I don't like threaded or ball bearing headsets that much. I think they're just a bit cheap, and steel bearings are a bit superior. So yeah, there's a chimney stack on top of the steer, so we have to cut that back. So I measured once so I can cut twice. And the work stand came in nice for this. So yeah, here's the first few strokes. This is painful and we'll just speed it up. Actually what I'll do is I'll show you the bikes when I first got it, which was like basically left off the side of the road for £15. It had a stuck seat post which I got out with caustic soda in the end, and I do not recommend that. And this was an iteration where I thought it might work with some disc brakes. They were pretty rubbish and they ended up breaking, but I thought the bike looked really cool and I was actually just happy about that. But it rode awfully, and because of this broke, I put it in the corner and kind of forgot about it until I came up with this idea. Okay, that's taken long, so we'll just look at the bike that inspired the build. This is the kind of wrap bike I thought I could do. Important note, these are actually 24-inch wheels on the bike and then a proper disc brake conversion. I've seen it a few times, really cool bike, so jealous of it, but for me to build this would be a couple of £100 just to get all the parts and just would not be worth it. So here I pretended to be a bike mechanic and actually filed the head tube, but I don't know why I put oil down, but here's my favourite sound in the world. So at this stage I had a rethink and I decided to go with some high-rise handlebars. So these are super wide and tall ones. Then I got a new chain, I got this 34 tooth 7-speed cassette, which would be awesome for some hills. This high-rise handlebar, I love it. It's nearly 700 wide, 100mm rise. I have it on my touring bike. And then this cheap Diamondback saddle I got for about £5. So the stem was very crusty, all the screws are rusty, so this is just some rust remover. And then did that, and then I could just give them a bit of polish as well after that to get rid of that black stain. So it turned out pretty nice. Nice and silver-ish. It wasn't trying to be perfect, but just good enough. And then this stem had loads of gunk on it, so sticky stuff remover. And then lots of elbow grease, which was pretty good. So the front cap was a bit stained from the rust, so instead of sticky stuff I just gave it a bit of a polish with some fine wool that got rid of that, and turned out pretty nice. So there's the stem, looks really good actually, came out really well. So after polishing the stem I thought screw it, I might as well polish the frame as well. So this is me getting all the crap off the frame, all the components, they'll all be reused. But yeah, just getting it ready to give the rust a bit of a sand down, and then to give the whole bike a bit of a polish with some metal polish first and then some beeswax after that. Yeah, here I'm just sanding down some of the major rust spots on the top of the frame where you see it the most, and I think this approach works really well. I've done it on a few bikes and I've been actually really happy with it. More towards the chainstay, I just leave it as it is and just give it a rough. Get the major orangey spots down, but nothing too major. Here I'm using some spray that bike top wax. I think it's pretty good. I'm hoping that it kind of gives a bit of a level of corrosion resistance. I just didn't have the time or even the clear coat on hand, so this was the best I could do. It gives really nice polish. I was happy with it on the bikes I put it on, and yeah, turned out okay. So here I'm just playing with the spacers for the stem. I didn't have all of one colour, so I used half black, half carbon, and I'm just testing out which way to have them. You would think the handlebar installation would be easy, but there was some crud left in one of the stem bolts, which meant I couldn't get purchased with the Allen key, so I had to scrape that out of both of them before I could tighten them down. Next we could get the front brake on, and then the gear shifter, which was just hanging off the frame. Again, this is a thumb shifter, which in the end didn't actually work. So I've had this shifter for years. I bought it for like £5 off eBay back in probably like 2017 or something. And it's not a Shimano and it's not a SRAM. I can't find any information on it online. And what is really annoying about it is it's close enough to the Shimano indexing that you would think it works, but then when you actually ride it and put some pressure or power down on the cranks, it likes to skip. And you could get it working either in the low gears or the high gears, but then the opposite side of the cassette would skip. So yeah, unbelievably annoying. And I don't have a picture of it, but on the last day before I sold this bike, I did actually replace it with an LX shifter I had. And I'm not gonna lie, the leaky valve core took me forever to figure out. But yeah, the wheels got new tires and new tubes, and then I just put on this new 34 tooth cassette, which went actually quite smoothly. You will notice in the future clips that the wheel is wonky. I did fix that, That's how I figured out the trick of spraying some soapy water into the tire before you put it on, and then increase the pressure to 100 psi. And now we're at the fun bit of making the bike look like a bike. So the wheel went on okay, and then I could put on the new brake pads and get everything settled in. And as usual, using existing kind of old stock, kind of came up with a few curveballs. Basically no tension in the brake. So just in the next time lapse, you'll just see what you have to do to troubleshoot this, which is basically just take it apart and put it back together again. And now we can get the chain on and actually get this bike ready to move. So here you can see me counting it about 5 different times to make sure I get it right, which is basically 4 links. Yeah, I was blocking most of this clip, so you'll just have to see me taking the chain off at the end. Let me know down in the comments what you think of the time lapse or the speed up clips. Sometimes I enjoy it because it's nice to see the process of doing something, but also having a 5-minute clip raw is actually quite frustrating and a bit boring, and I skip them myself when I see them in videos. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys like. So no surprise, I have to adjust the derailleur. So yeah, setting the high and low limit screws, and then more importantly the B screw for that big cassette. Yeah, and then just to get the right tension in the cable, I put the chain into the third cassette to kind of pull on the derailleur to make it a bit tight, and then when you pull on the cable and tighten it, that pre-tensions the cable on the system. So with the barrel adjustment after doing this is all that's needed. You don't generally, 9 out of 10 times, you don't need to readjust the cable. That probably doesn't make sense, so just look at what I'm doing. But anyway, yeah, and now we can get the seat on. And now we have to transfer the bike into a proper work stand, because the European style, you can't have a fully constructed bike in it. That's kind of annoying, and I guess that's why teams use it for just quick cleaning. You're not really building up a bike, you're just doing quick adjustments. So with the front brake, it was pretty simple. Put in the brake pads, and then again the brakes weren't set up right, the springs weren't loaded correctly, so just give them a bit of an adjustment and then they work nice and smoothly. So I'm doing the final bolt check here, but this was the start of my woes with this bike. So while doing the test rides, the shifting was never great, and in the top gear it would skip. So I focused on the skipping gear because I thought that if I focused on that and got that solved, it might fix the problem. But that ended up being a bit of a defect in the top cog, as you can see here. It was just a tiny little bit of a groove, just meant the chain could skip when I put any power down. I ended up getting a full refund from the supplier, SGS Cycles, for this cassette, and they've removed it from their website, so it's a bit frustrating, but happy ending. And then the simple fix for it was just replacing that cog with a Shimano one, and it worked seamlessly. So now that we have the bolt checks and the test rides and the proper cog in, we can stare at the bike. So these are the photos from the listing on eBay. So I thought I was finished with the bike now that the cog issue was sorted, but when I took it for the final test ride just before I met the guy to sell it, the shifting was just slightly off. And then I just took the decision to actually replace the shifter with an old LX shifter I had lying about. And then also, just to help with the shifting into the 34 tooth, I added one of those AliExpress extender pieces. So minus the shifter and then that addition of an extender piece, this is the finished bike. So I listed the bike on eBay for £300. I thought this was a fair value based on the components I had, which was a mix of new and old, and then also the fact it was a complete and serviced bike. Then I'm happy to say I did sell it for £290 in the first week and was absolutely over the moon with that. So if you've watched it to the end, thank you very much, I really appreciate it. Hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have any comments, let me know down below, and I'll see you in the next one.